Some of you have asked how you can help us, while most of us would say we want wine. Italian Wine Podcast is a publicly funded, sponsor-driven enterprise that needs the moolah. You can donate through Patreon or GoFundMe by heading to ItalianWinePodcast.com. We would appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to this special Italian Wine Podcast broadcast. This episode is a recording off Clubhouse, the popular drop-in audio chat. This Clubhouse session was taken from the Wine Business Club and Italian Wine Club. Listen in as wine lovers and experts alike engage in some great conversation on a range of topics in wine. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. And remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in.
Hello, everybody. Today is actually Thanksgiving Day. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I don't know where you are. In Italy, of course, there's no such thing as Thanksgiving. We do try to celebrate. Usually the staff, they actually make some, they bake turkeys and they bring it to the office. We had a different Thanksgiving at a restaurant this year, but happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hello, and so this is Italian Wine Club on Clubhouse. This, I believe, is our 60 plus episode on Clubhouse dedicated to the Ambassador's Corner. Ciao, Laika.
Ciao, Stevie. 70.
Oh, 70th. Okay, 70th.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. That's way beyond a year. Every week, as you know, we record the session. We're using mostly as a platform now to record, and then we replay on the Italian Wine Podcast. And I do believe we are the number one wine podcast in the world now. So thank you, everybody. And that's also thanks to our VIA community, all the ambassadors who participate, and all the producers that they interview, and of course, the audience that we have. It's a little quiet today, but let's bring on our Italian mod today, and that's Arlene. Hello, Arlene.
Hello, Stevie. Such a pleasure and so grateful to be here. It's been a long time.
I know. I can't even remember the last time I saw you, to be quite honest.
I know. I am in two places most of the time between North America and Asia. But it's such a great pleasure to be here. And on Thanksgiving Day, happy Thanksgiving to you.
Are you in Philippines right now?
I am in Philippines now.
Do they celebrate? I mean, there's no such thing as Thanksgiving, of course, right?
Oh, but it's well celebrated here.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yes.
So, Arlene,
Yes.
I know you're also friends with Laika, but how are you doing? What are you doing now? So tell me, because I haven't seen you in such a long time.
I know. Well, I'm currently based in the Philippines. I've been here from February as I established my own restaurant, Enoteca, and bottle shop. It's called Olive Rose Farmhouse, but it's also where my micro vineyard is being cultivated. And aside from my personal venture in viticulture, I'm also overseeing and guiding other viticultural investments in the country. So, a very interesting time for the Philippines at this point.
So the Olive Rose Farmhouse, it's a restaurant?
It is a restaurant
Okay.
that is inspired by the terroir of a region outside the capital city of Manila, but it's also operated in partnerships with the farmers, the fishermen, and the artisan of the community. So it's a social enterprise in a way.
So what kind of wine are you producing in the Philippines?
Because we are just planting the seed for this first viticulture project, what I've been trying to do in the past months is I've been researching on what has been planted on the soil of the Philippines. And fortunately for me, I found a few of Vitis Vinifera. There's not a lot here at this point, which is actually a more exciting time for me because I like to trailblaze and I like to create. I love the creation process. But so far, I found Muscat, I found Gravicinia. There are some Pinot Blanc around the country, especially in the south. But what I'm trying to impact is the placements of the vines. At this point, most of the investments are on table grapes. And I think we're skipping on the potential of the soil here because we have been stuck on table grapes and producing wines out of tropical fruits.
Wow, that sounds like a big challenge you have, but exciting. Arlene, I think you start your very first edition of Vinitaly International Academy. Is that correct?
That is accurate,
Oh my
Stevie.
goodness. So
And
that's
and you
way
know
back.
what? It's Thanksgiving Day, Stevie, so I must start with saying thank you because once I started my career as an Italian wine ambassador, it really has paved the way for many opportunities for me and it became life changing. So for that, I'm very grateful to you.
Well, I'm grateful that you were able to join us since 2015. So I hope you get a chance to come back to Italy very soon. In the meantime, you of course have you've chosen Francesca Vaira as your favorite producer today. I know Francesca, so I'm pretty excited to just take my tea and listen to you guys. Why did you choose Francesca as your producer to be on the call today?
Well, the past years, particularly at the height of pandemic, in both my personal life and professional work, I have reflected more on kindness and purpose and how we can positively impact each other. So, when asked of memorable wines, I have a personal list of favorites, which I love to refer to as the kind of wines. And I love to think of these wines as wines of genuine character, but also from wine producers and winemakers who are kind to the planet, kind to their employees, kind to their consumers and communities, and kind to the legacy and history of the wine grape. So, we love to refer to wines as bottled poetry. But I thought, what if wine producers and wine professionals like us start thinking of wines as bottled kindness? And how do we imagine that wine to be? There is an abundance of delicious, character filled wines in Italy, but to me, kind wines linger longer than the simply delicious wines. And when I think of the kind of wines, I'm quickly reminded of the Vajra wines. Aldo Vajra's winemaking philosophy also inspired me. I remember him giving the best definition of what purposeful winemaking is about. On his own reflections of his winemaking career, he recalled how the vineyards could make him feel victorious at times, but also when the vineyards make him bend in humility. He said that having loved his vineyards and his job for many decades, he has recognized his purpose. And that purpose is not only to make wines, but to make wines that give joy to people, to share bottles that will create moments of happiness. He believes that through creating moments of happiness, he can make this world a better and more beautiful place. So I chose them as my favorite wine producer because I feel aligned to their ethos and values. Stevie.
That's. It sounds like you've never left Italy in reality. I don't know.
I so love Italy, Stevie. It's a part of me. I when I'm asked by people, by my friends and colleagues, they always tell me you split your life in three places, and I always tell them, but I am never confused. I know that I love my birth country, and I will always feel grateful to the foundations that it gave me, but I will give my life for Canada because Canada opened up many opportunities for me. But Italy to me, Stevie, is my respite. It is such a beautiful refuge. And it is really what has inspired me tremendously in life.
Well, that's why you make such a great Italian wine ambassador, I suppose. So, we get a bit geeky around here. So, we do have a geeky via community as our audience. So, what are the learning objectives that we should expect from you today?
I wish to learn with our community this evening the distinctions of the single crew vineyards, particularly the Brico del Viole, as well as to understand further the native grape Faisa. It is actually one of my favorites, Stevie. And it is behind their very successful Kie wine. Of course, Aldo Vieira, Francesca's father, pioneered organic practices in Piemonte in the 1970s. So I believe it will be helpful to learn more on the extent of their organic practices and understand how their commitment to sustainability comes to play in an ecosystem which also prioritizes the preservation of Italian native grapes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to leave the mic over to you now, and perhaps come back towards the end of the session. Okay.
Thank you so much, Stevie.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye. I'd like to introduce Francesca Vaira of GD Vaira Wines. Francesca Vaira represents one of the most important winemaking families of Barolo and refers to herself as the front woman of GD Vaira Barolo. The Vaira family, Francesca with siblings Giuseppe and Isidoro and parents Milena and Aldo, refer to themselves as instruments of nature and have been cultivating native grapes from a farm owned by their family since the 1920s. The family patriarch Aldo Vaira is lovingly referred to as the artisan of the land and pioneered organic viticulture in the 1970s. Although reluctant to be labeled as either traditionalist or modernist, Aldo is referred to for his dedication to preserving classic Barolo styles. The Vaira family is passionately dedicated to sustainable organic vineyard practices and champions the preservation of Italian native grapes. They are known to produce some of the most memorable classic Barolo wines. The prized wines are produced from their Bricco del Viole crew, known to sit on pure Tortonian soil and situated at the highest elevation among historic vineyards that look south the Alps. While Vajra wines are recognized for their purity, authenticity, freshness, and elegance, the Vajra family is considered one of the best kept secrets of Piemonte. Wine lovers who are fortunate to visit the Vajra estate will remember not only their wines but the genuine kindness, warmth, and hospitality of a family whose vineyards and winery operations provide the most convincing examples of kindness, diversity, and inclusivity. It is my honor to welcome to this evening's podcast the ever so delightful Francesca Vaira, the incredible frontwoman of GD Vaira Barolo.
Grazie Arlene, grazie Stevie. It's such a joy and such an honor to be with you tonight. And yes, I feel even more grateful to be today on Thanksgiving Day because anytime there is a time to talk with you, Arlene, and to you know to spend time with friends and above all friends that we don't see since quite a bit of time. Yet we do have the gratitude of the time we could spend together in the past. So Arlene, it's like being with you here on Bricco delle Viole tonight. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Francesca. It is such a great pleasure to be here with you on this platform. So I think we'll start with a few questions coming from me. And my first question is if you can, as if telekinetically, take me back to your majestic vineyards because I miss it so much, and help our listeners imagine where the Vira estate is located in Alba, Italy. If you can kindly describe those vineyards, where it is, where they are situated, and the kind of wines produced from them.
Well, I was actually thinking earlier today, Arlene, probably one of the last time we saw each other was really on the top of Bricco delle Viole.
Correct.
And we did the super fun ampelography competition.
Exactly. I could remember that vividly.
Yeah, and so yeah, Bricco delle Viole, for the ones who are not familiar with the area. So first of all, we have to think we are in Piemonte, and being the Bricco delle Viole among the historical crew of Barolo, the highest and the western, is one of those magic places where in a clear day you can definitely feel the embrace of the Alps. Today has been one of those days. It's November, so people usually expect the Langhe area to be very foggy. And yes, we had some days like that, but the last few days has been amazing. We do enjoy a beautiful, bright sky. And standing on Bricco delle Viole, which is this hill facing south, what you can really see in front of you is the beginning of the Alps. We do actually see three sectors. The very first part is Ligurian Alps, the Maritimes, and the Cozzi Alps. Alps Coetzee has a major point, a mountain called Monviso, that the local call the King, being the highest mountain, but many people know as the Paramount. There is a funny legend about the guy who did a sketch of Paramount picture design. So the legend said it was coming from nearby Barolo, actually a town called Mondovì. And when it was asking him to design a little sketch that could be a brand for this company, the Monte was within his heart. But in between us and the Alps, we actually have a river called Tanaro, which is a very key river to understand the orography and the different denomination within the area surrounding the town of Alba. So basically Langhe in the southern part, Roero north, and within the Langhe, Barolo and Barbaresco. And in between us, the river, and the Alps, we do have the major plain of Italy that starts, so the Pianura Padana. So this is already defining a little bit the microclimate. So being a hill facing south, we do enjoy a beautiful light, but we also enjoy a beautiful ventilation. And whenever we talk about the Nebbiolo as a grape, and so we are talking about a late ripening variety, this is making something magical because really help us to be able to pick very healthy fruit, and not only healthy, because they're healthy allows us to leave those fruit longer on the vines, so to let those fruit enjoy a beautiful drop in temperature. So this diurnal delta, this is key to help the aromatics of Nebbiolo to really show up. So more technically, the height of Bricco delle Viole is this hill that rises from 400 to 480 meters above sea level. The name is very peculiar as well because Bricco is a typical name we find a lot in the region of Piemonte. It means a hill that stands out. So often in Tuscany we find the word poggio. A bricco technically is just a bit higher than that, so just a bit more exposed. And Bricco delle Viole means the top hill of the hill of the violets. So if there is a flower, the blue at the very first flower in a wild way within the area, those are violets. But the crazy thing, because I say crazy because even if the violets can have an intense flavor, they are incapable to impact the aromatics of the wines directly, like maybe some other plants would be able to impact. But well, it's violet, I would say, is always one of those trait that in a blind tasting I'm looking for, and when I do find it, it's usually a very big signal that might be di Barolo Bricco delle Viole. So it's not only the name of the vineyard itself, but really there is a connection with the wine itself. What also make very magic the Bricco delle Viole is there is a story behind it. There is a story of connection among our family and other families of the area. And that's because our family is farming within Bricco delle Viole since at least 1654. So there is a very deep connection, and no surprise if even our grandparents left the countryside, our father felt he had to go back and take care of those fields and that vineyard. Within Bricco delle Viole, we have a beautiful, beautiful heritage also in terms of vineyards themselves. We are talking of many different plots. The oldest plots are turned this year more than 90 years old. But there is actually a beautiful collection of many different stage and vines, and a beautiful biodiversity within this vineyard.
Beautiful, very well explained. And I kind of miss Brico del Viole more after your explanation, I must say, Francesca. Um, Let me follow through that with another question on Brico del Viole. You like referring to it as a classic ballerina who wants to be the lightest on the stage, but also you often suggest that it takes a lot of work trying to be the most delicate. Kindly take us to Brico del Viole again and describe to us the wines of that vineyard.
Sure. Is is very key wine to us because in vineyard, because it's not only where everything started for our family, but because our grandparents left the countryside and our dad restarted everything from the scratch in the late 60s. He has been, he really, I would say that the Bricco delle Viole really shape the way of working within Vajra. The fact that we are very high in elevation and those fruit, they enjoy a beautiful drop in temperature, and this deliver us a wine with a lot of complexity. Well, this complexity is never against a great finesse. Actually, what defines Bricco delle Viole is really, I'm thinking of this image of ballerinas because if you're ballerinas, you want to be the lightest on the stage, you want to be the one that jumps the highest and land the lightest. But in order to be able to do that, there is a lot of effort, there is a lot of exercise, there is a lot of training. And training is not only what we do from one vineyard to vintage to another, but it's really the training of trying to be capable to really see what is happening in front of you. You know that Barolo production area back in the 80s and then 90s and maybe a little bit still early 2000 lived a very big moment of a big challenge and almost like a clash in between two groups of producers, the so-called traditional producer versus the modern winemakers. But well, before even that moment started, our father, and I'm just grateful for that, he already had a clear vision what was Bricco delle Viole about. In Bricco delle Viole, also the super white clay we do get, which are Marni di Sant'Agata fossili, we deposit from the Messignano stage, always deliver a lot of finesse into the tannins structure, but very incredible tension within the structure itself and those super delicate aromatics. So the point is that you can see this piece of land as one piece of filigrane, if you're attentive, you do see the train, what is underneath the white surface. But if you think you know what you do see or how you want the wine to be, then that piece is just a piece of white paper and you can paint as much as you like. So I would say the big challenge of Bricco delle Viole, it's about being able to see what that vineyard is really about and then learning and keep learning because it's an ongoing process, how you can preserve that uniqueness, how you can make that train, that filigrane to show off and be more evident to everybody.
I'd like to echo that, Francesca, because I, I've done a few trips to your estate and I've met your family. And one thing that is a resonating message when I visit is you're fond of the words. Your family is fond of saying scratching the surface. And I hear you say that again when you explain that the surface has to be scratched, for all of these vineyards to shine and for all of these wines to be understood. Um, and I really love how you explain that. I also am particularly fond of the wines coming from the lower elevation of the commune, Costa di Rose. And I believe that particular vineyard has a different kind of soil. So if Bricco del Viole boasts of the Sanagata marl, Costa de Rose is the other kind of soil, the Arenaria di Tiano, correct?
Absolutely, it is. So that's so there are a few things that I would love to say. So Bricco delle Viole is the heart of Vajra, but because it's a heart, is what allowed us to approach with even more finesse and delicate approach every single vineyard, and so to really evaluate the uniqueness of each of them. So the work we try to do at Vajra, and as well as Luigi Baudana that joined our family later in 2008, is not to show a style, but really to try to find the unique points and be able to share with more people. So when we do talk about Costa di Rose, we are talking about the second together. So there are three 3 MGA, 3 single vineyards within Barolo production area that they do carry a name of flowers. One is Bricco delle Viole, and then if we try to design like a straight line going from Bricco delle Viole to, let's say, to the southern and eastern side of the Barolo production area, we will find Coste di Rose and we will find Ginestra. So Bricco delle Viole, Coste di Rose, and Ginestra are actually 3 vineyards aligned among each other, dedicated to 3 different flowers. And this is very, very unique. But Coste di Rose, roses and violets usually are descriptors for wines and red wines within the Barolo production area and above all Barolo. So when in 2014 we had the chance to take care of those vines in Coste di Rose, for me it has been like a lovely, lovely moment, because I was just so curious to see how that vineyard was showing up, And really, there are so many different points among Coste di Rose and Bricco delle Viole. First of all, we are talking, as you were absolutely being super correct talking about the soil, we are talking about completely different soil type. So if in Bricco delle Viole we do talk about laminated Sant'Agata, Fosili Mars, plus we do have some deposit of Messinianic soil on the top of the vineyards. In Coste di Rose, we are talking of a slightly different geological period. So the soil is, as you were probably say, Arenaria di Diano, which is a soil that had been created around 10 million years ago. And is a Tortonian sandstone that we can only found on the top of Canubi Hill and in tiny vales in Ravera as well, and in a narrow region between Rocca di Castiglione and Ginestra in Monforte di Alba. Coste di Rose is a lower elevation vineyard, so we do farm a section that is 270 meters up to 310 meters on the level of the sea. So we are talking about a lower vineyard. We are talking about east side of the hill, which is a beautiful combination, because being sandy, the vine, and given the fact that it's dry farming within our region, so it's completely forbidden to water the vine, to farm a sandy hill on an east exposure is key, because the two things are really helping each other. Yet, even if it's a lower elevation vineyard, Coste di Rose enjoy a very good ventilation, and it is an amazing resilience to the heat and drought during the warm vintages. The shape of the hill itself is very peculiar, because when you do see the hill from the village of Barolo, you do see basically Preda is a hill. And if you look at the profile of the hill goes up. At one point, it shows like a jump. And that jump actually is Coste di Rose, and that jump is a dune of pure sandy. So you walk Bricco delle Viole, and you probably remember Arlene doing 2 steps in Bricco delle Viole and probably having the feeling you had to clean your shoes because we're not polished anymore.
Correct. That's true.
I have to say, during the pandemic, I behaved very well, but I really had the feeling one day I have to put the flip-flops in the back of my car and drive to Costa di Rosa and pretend I have to do any kind of works in Costa di Rosa and just put the flip-flops and walk in this sandy vineyard and pretend to be at the seaside for just 10 minutes,
Which now reminds me of what I often hear from your brother Giuseppe has this explanation when asked to differentiate the wines of Costa di Rose and Bricco del Viole, and he will always refer to the wines of Bricco del Viole as the wines of Pink Floyd. It's rock, but it also is orchestra. And then the wines of Costa di Rose is more the happy, joyful, charismatic that will remind you of the Beatles. And I like how he put it. He put the explanation that way.
Yeah, each of us, and that's the beauty of being a family business. Each of us is taken into every single vineyard, because, and that's the beauty. It's we are talking a wine right now. We can be hyper technical, but at the end, whenever we talk about wine, what we are really trying to do is create bridges among people, among your experience, my experience, and experience can be, ballerinas, or it can be,
The rock star.
It can be a textile, it can be a fabrics. It can be so many different things. And I think this is why the wine world is so great, because it's not just one thing. It's way more than that. There are so many different aspects, so many different way to see it, and at the same time, it's gaining so much. It's getting deeper. It's getting more complex. It's getting also more familiar and easy to explain.
Exactly. Truly a mosaic of experiences. And when I think of the mosaic of experiences, I am always reminded of your family, your beautiful family. Kind of share some of your personal reflections and the story of your winemaking family, including family values that shaped the viral winemaking philosophy. Although I know that your family doesn't really like referring to philosophy because you see winemaking more as a craft rather than a philosophy. But if you can kindly share some of your personal reflections on the story of your winemaking family.
Yeah, it's a family. The very first thing I think is heritage as a key word, because it would not be for heritage, even if not fully understood when our dad was a kid and was looking into his grandpa, this mythical grandpa Carlin, and his love for wine and his attention to the vines. Judy Vaira wouldn't be who is right now. So I would say is about this desire to take care of a history and a tradition within the family, but not only within the family. Because when you find it, then your desire is to embrace it, and you see the value, and you want to you feel also more open to take care and carry other heritage. And that is what happened with Mr. Baldana. When in 2008 he asked our family, and we found this. We met this guy who born in a hamlet called Baldana. He was farming a vineyard called Baldana, whose surname was Baldana. And the desire was only, okay, let's put new energy and let this story keep running, so that in the future people, whenever will see a vineyard and will buy a bottle coming from Baldana vineyard, they will know there was actually a person where people were heritage behind it. But I would say there are, this goes side by side with a question of respect in responsibility. And you can play those two words both to the people as well as to the land. And when you work this way, your approach is extremely careful, delicate, but very attentive. You cannot not allow yourself to stay on the surface of things. You have to dig into, you have to keep learning, you have to keep looking at. And so you were talking of a craft, but as well is, I feel, yeah, we are very much artisan. And this, I would say, this feeling also came with the beautiful story of the stained glass windows we do have at the winery. Windows that have been created and put in place with a unique desire to be able to work ourselves into the beauty, to recall ourselves that wine is about beauty. The wine has a very deep social purpose, and it's to remind people we are meant for beauty. We are meant for the best. We are meant also to share, to be kind. So those windows lead our parents to an incredible guy whose name was Costantino Ruggeri. He was actually a Franciscan monk. He was not the one they expect to meet. It was, somebody's crew calling the friend of the friend of the friend. But well, after 2 months after the very first meeting, the guy called them back saying, the windows are ready when you come to pick them up. Those windows came at the winery. And those windows always said to me this dramatic distance among what the people think winemakers are, so artists, and what I feel we are, so artisans. A good artisan is actually somebody really capable to see the beauty. And I was thinking the other day, uh, I was looking to the table I do have in my house, and I was thinking the story that table came. We simply had the desire to have a beautiful piece of tree within the family, and I remember the conversation with this carpenter, and I told him, okay, this is the design of the table, but there is no rush. The day you will find a tree that will fit the purpose, then will be the time to make the table. And I was thinking, yes, what if this guy, instead of being able to look the beauty will have in his mind only the idea he have to chop a piece of wood to put into the fireplace. He will destroy something that nature took forever to be done. If not forever, at least maybe 100 years,
Italian Wine Podcast, brought to you by Mama Jumbo Shrimp.
And the same will be for a raw diamond, and the same it is for a berry. So the point is about being always capable to look what is happening in front of us, always with the eyes full of beauty and the heart full of beauty. And this is what is pushing us to work very hard within the family, because harvest time is not only the moment you pick and you put into the cellar. Harvest time is the moment you can learn something more. It's the moment where all the unique little traits you collect through the years, looking at how the vines are behaving, the different vineyards and everything, can really take a place, a moment where you can learn more about the winemaking. So with a very, very humble approach, but very scientific, very attentive, full of love, I would say.
When you mentioned harvest, I have to. I am reminded of one of the most touching stories of harvest, and this was your harvest in 2018. I remember learning that your family did a massive amount of work by hand in 2018 because you wanted to be on time with the vines, and you wanted to carry the fruit, but you didn't want to compact the soil after the raining. It was there was a lot of pouring apparently, and so you did a lot. You did the work using your hands. So the work that was meant to be done by the tractor, your family and your staff did. And it was such a touching story, a real story of harvest. And this happened in 2018.
Yeah, I start to call with my brothers 2018 as a vintage of love. Nebbiolo is often like that. Nebbiolo is lovely grape, and it's tricky somehow, but not tricky in a bad manner, but more is one of those people that need to feel the love, to feel loved in order to show off the best of who they are. And Nebbiolo is exactly like that. I was driving early this year to Verona with my older brother Giuseppe, and we were going to do an event, and we were going to taste 2010 vintage as Bricco delle Viole, and the people were talking a lot about 2018. Many people were feeling very uncomfortable about the vintage because we had a lot of rain. Actually, it's been a very rainy month of May. And then you look at the information of how 2018 has been, how 2014 has been, and how 2010 has been. And what I'm noticing more and more is that often into the vintage with Nebbiolo farming, you do have a moment where things seems to be very tough, where it's easier to say, okay, I'm done. I don't spend anymore. I don't gonna go anymore into the fields. The vintage is compromised. And instead, if you keep putting a lot of love, then you can make something amazing. Because nature is like giving a caress to you at the end of the season. So what really happened in 2018 is that we had a lot of rain in the month of May, and because we do farm organic, and to us farming organic is a very holistic way of thinking. It's not only what we do give or what we don't give. It's not a paper thing. It's really this desire to take care of people and nature, and feeling everything truly united since the beginning, and since in a very deep level. So we do farm. I do have this memory that already in the 90s in our vineyards, I could recognize our vineyards when the school bus was driving us back home from school, because our fields were the only fields with the grass inside and the little flowers. I was a baby girl, so the flowers were pretty standing out to me. But it took me years to understand that, was not that common to keep the grass. So we do keep the grass in order to have a certain structure within the soil. And in 2018, because it was so rainy, if you would step into the vineyard with tractors, we will compress too much soil. And we will kill the life in the upper part of the ground. So we decided to do everything by hand. And everything by hand was done, everything with backpack to spray copper and sulfur after the rain. But considering the fact that beside Costa di Rosa, which is a sandy soil, from Bricco delle Viole to all the other vineyards, everything is clay. I don't know if you can imagine, and the people are hearing us can really imagine, what is the effort at every single step. Your backpack is getting lighter in a very slow way, but every single step you do take, your boots are covered more and more of mold, and that's very heavy. So we're extremely grateful to Isidoro, our younger brother, and to all our amazing team within the fields, because they have been the very first people who really took care of those vines. Then the vintage turned beautiful. It's been a very, very long season. We finished to pick the berries October 22nd. I remember clearly because my third niece born that day. But the wine shows incredible phenolics, maturity, very smooth. For sure, it's also vintage that prove other two things. So the importance to work with all vines and the importance of the good exposure. But because we could do everything we could, because nature really helped us with a nice ventilation. So now you could understand better why the importance of ventilation, both Bricco delle Viole and Costa di Rosa, as well as Rovera.
Wow, wow, that was so touching, Francesca, and congratulations, by the way, on the birth of your third niece. And I had to pause and really absorb everything you said. I needed a moment of reflection, and I'm really looking forward to tasting the 2018. Um, I know that from the early years of your winemaking story, your family has shown great commitment to the preservation of Italian native grapes. And one of those rare grapes that fascinates is Fraiche. Can you help us get to know Fraiche better and describe your Fraiche-based wine, Kie?
With great joy. So Fresa is part of this heritage I was mentioning before. So we do love Fresa because our father had the desire to take care of some of the vines who belonged to his grandfather. So he started to take care of the Fresa without really knowing as much as we do know nowadays. Nowadays, we know that people are talking of Fresa already in the 1600. Amazing book written by Giambattista Croce, dated 1606, was talking of the Fresa. And, so it's something very historical. And only a couple of years ago, we found an empty bottle that Arlene, we didn't find when we met the last time. So next time I better show you that bottle, but it's a bottle who
Wow.
belongs to our great grandfather, Carlene. And considering the fact that Carlene was making wine for the family, so basically all the wine was drunk bulk, and to find a bottle wine, it's already saying something. It was saying about the attention he had for that wine. So what is written on the label is a super simple label, but it's written Barbera Fresia 70. So that wine belonged to 1970, and actually we don't really know the flavor or how the wine has been made back in time, but we know that for our grandfather meant a lot if he wanted to bottle the wine. And well, our dad reselected some of the vines from his grandfather vineyards, and he replanted them in Bricco delle Viole. Those are actually the closest vine to the winery. And he started to make and vinify the Fresa, and it was popular back in the 70s. So basically, it was making a fizzy version of Fresa. The point is that the more it was farming this Fresa and the more it was trying to make this fizzy Fresa, the more he was noticing that those wines were not good to do that. Not because they were not good to make a wine, but because they were somehow too good to make a fizzy wine. They were delivering thicker skins. They had too thick skins to make a light wine. They had too low yield to make a light wine. Those wines were producing and concentrated too much sugar. Instead of, they could give like a 14% alcohol, while in a light fizzy Fresa, people were looking for maximum, let's say 11% alcohol. So it was trying hard to make a fizzy wine, and at one point you have to give up. It was not meant to make a wine like that. Those the wine his grandpa selected, were not meant to deliver a fizzy and light wine. So the point is that he had to change his mind about that, and so he started to do a different kind of vinification. And instead of making a fizzy version of Fraiche, then he started to make, let's say, a bone dry Fraiche, who lead to deliver an incredible amount of tannins. So the only thing he could do was to apply what he knew was the best way to deal with vines delivering a lot of tannins and a good acidity like Nebbiolo. So we started to age Fraiche like we do age Barolos. And when this wine came on the market, it was absolutely a surprise. First of all, because the most part of people were expecting the Fraiche to be a fizzy wine, and it was not. Second, because the color was not that light. And third, because most parts of the time, Fraiche was coming into the tasting after Barolos. And one day, a dear friend of family who is actually a German guy, instead of asking my father what is the Fraiche, he was talking Italian, he got wrong, and he said, who is the Fraiche? And what could be a grammar mistake for the most of people actually was able to pick the way we do deal with vines. Who is the Fraiche? To us, vines are like human beings. Each of them has its own character, way of behaving, history, way to be treated. And so that's how we start to call this wine Kie, so Kye, which is nothing but the phonetic spelling of the Italian question, who is that? Well, then that wine was quite a shock into the community. It was actually a good kick to start to study the DNA. In 2004, we got the very first result about the Fraiche, and what we have been able to discover is the fact that it was a connection among Fraiche and Nebbiolo. And this connection became even more clear in 2017, when Professor Anna Schneider, which you met on the top of Bricco delle Viole, was able to say that Fraiche actually is one of the kids of Nebbiolo. Right now, we don't know yet if it's a kid because of a mutation of the plant or because of a cross. For a long time, people thought it was a cross among Nebbiolo and Arvana. Then now the community was able to say that there is no such a connection. But we didn't find yet, in the case of cross, who is the other parent. And this to us has been even more a kick to be more attentive, to preserve more biodiversity, to take care of all the different kind of varietals and try to vinify them in an amazing way so people can fall in love with them. Because it's so evident that if everybody's looking to what is mainstream and follows that, when we talk about varietals, and you were talking about that with Stevie early on, one point you turn behind, you might have lost biodiversity, and once it's lost, nobody tell us that we will be able to recreate that. So that's why all of us have to work. And thank you for what you're doing into the Philippines right now, because who knows, maybe in some years we will find in the Philippines some grape that finds that far away and end up being the other parents of Fraiche.
Well, I think we're following the same early patterns of history, because right now what I've been trying to do is I've been visiting areas where they have been killing grape cultivars that are more meant for wine, more meant for winemaking, because the people don't like wine grapes here. They cannot sell their wine grapes because there aren't companies here that are producing wines yet out of Vitis Vinifera. So the farmers are trying to kill some of these plantations. And so that's what I've been trying to do. I'm really putting the case that yes, we can produce wines of the vines that you have grown, and hopefully, perhaps not in my lifetime, Francesca, but it should happen. I do have belief in the terroir of this country, and I really believe in the craftsmanship and the hard work of the farming communities here. So I take a lot of inspiration from Italy, and I take a lot of inspiration from winemaking families like yours.
Well, the only thing I can promise you Arlene is quite a bit of white hairs.
I need to be drinking more wines now. I need to be drinking more Italian wines. Which reminds me of your father, Aldo. I love your father so much, and I really I have been inspired by many of his philosophies. But what I notice about your father is he would rather talk lovingly about his family, about your family, rather than talk about wine sometimes. Can you tell us more about the future of Vajra wines and how you and your brothers are working to preserve the legacy of your father, as well as preserving the stories of the Vajra vineyards?
Well, we do have you know, I called my dad the Capitan. I feel we are extremely, extremely lucky as siblings because we do have somebody to look at who never work staying on the surface of the things. He had to prove his parents. He was serious about what he was doing, and he couldn't learn from his father, and he just had memory of his grandfather. So he tried to learn as much as he could from the local community, from the old farmers. But in real life, his approach has been always extremely scientific, and did lead us to work him first, and then he passed over this sensitiveness. I will actually use this word, approaching the vines and viticulture and winemaking at a different stage. I was yesterday I was at the winery, and I don't know why I was thinking. I never heard my father saying, "We always did like that. We will keep doing like that." Rather, it's about, okay, yes, we try to see if there is a consistency among one year and the other, but we know that there is no consistency, 100% consistency. Every vintage is going to be different. Maybe you can have the rain in May, and maybe the following year you're going to have in July. You had a lot of snow or no snow, or 2 years of dry weather in a row, like in these past 2 years. So the point is that he set a very high level of attention, and our mom. You're talking about our dad, but our mom she is a bit behind the scene apparently, but she is another key person within our business, and she definitely gave an incredible, delicate touch, and point out the beauty always, and the good into the things. So the two of them never push my brothers and I to do this job. They only say one thing: you have to get ready for life. And I think that they've been incredible, because they had to fight to do what they wanted to do, and they've been incredible parents, because they've been open to let the three of us to choose what was good for us, and in this incredible way also showing all of us the good sides and the tough sides about our job. I didn't mention, but in our area, hailstorm are a dramatic problem. And in 1986, our parents completely lost their winery. And if I say completely, the vines were completely broken by the ice in the month of May 1986. So they knew this is something that can happen. So they wanted us to be free to choose. And in an incredible way, the three of us we joined. We felt was a beauty, and each of us found the beauty for a different reason and in different places. And so I'm just so grateful. I mentioned about Easy because he's taking care of the vines, and he's been a huge fan of nature and farming. And as for that, it's not only about the vines themselves, but it's about what is happening in terms of bugs in the vineyards, what is happening in terms of differences of different kind of grass and herbs and flowers in all varietals. And the same attention and incredible precision is coming into the cellar thanks to Giuseppe. Giuseppe is our older brother. You mentioned him before. He's a lovely guy. Both of them are a lovely guy. And I can see into the two of them the same characteristic of other parents, somehow even more defined. So I would say the future of Vaira is in very good hands, because there is love, the same love that we breathe from our parents. and there are a couple more of hands willing to build something incredible and sharing.
I think that that is really what is inspiring the kindness signature of the Vajra family and the Vajra wines. If I'm to describe the signature of your wines, I also will say that it is the energy. It is that energy in your wines. There is something in the nerve of your wines for sure. And when drinking your wines, one can be reminded that wine is indeed alive, that it breathes, and because it breathes, it must have a heart. So where do you think the heart of Vajra wines lies?
Probably, it's a very tough question, this, Arlene.
I am
I was
tough.
not that ready. But yeah, I'm grateful for what you point out, because I notice on myself, I love wines that are alive. I love wines that they do have a soul. And if you find it out, I'm grateful that somebody else find it out. And I would say it's really trying um, to let what is really is going on to shine out. I mentioned before the image of diamond, but think about a raw diamond. When you find it out, is not so evident sometimes. It's not so perfect, and only the one who can see the diamond can work out the sides and let the uniqueness really blow out and comes out. So you need to be very attentive. You need to have a clear vision at the same time, um, and delicate. And then I would say is a mix probably of microclimate exposure, attention into the cellar that really let this uniqueness to comes out. I hope I answer you.
Hi, I am sorry. Okay, so we have a few minutes left, and I don't know if we have questions from our audience this evening. But let me just mention to the audience the words that I found on your website, which I think really sums it up very well. Viral wines are wines that do not need to talk out loud or flex their muscles. I love that, Francesca. But they will touch the hearts of all. And I truly, truly believe that. And I wish for many people in this platform that have stayed to listen to us will someday have the opportunity to visit your estate in Alba and to have the opportunity of tasting your wines the same way that I had the privilege in the past few years. And thank you so much, Francesca. It's an incredible honor to share this platform with you today. And I'd like to thank Stevie for this wonderful opportunity for us to be connected
Yeah.
after many years.
Yeah, grazie mille. Grazie Stevie for this opportunity, and Arlene for taking the opportunity. So many beautiful people I know, and thank you for picking us among all of them. I hope I was I was able to pass also this tradition of the good people, of the big heart of the people in winemaking world that is capable to cross the country and cross the time and stay within the hearts. So grazie mille, veramente, e grazie a tutti.
Grazie mille. Grazie mille.
So, you guys, that was so wonderful. I feel like you guys can go on forever.
That's why we need you, Stevie.
I know. But we have run out of time, unfortunately. But Francesca, I do have a question before we go. Can you just give us an overview of how many wines you produce, like how many labels, and perhaps a little bit of the production and the range? Because of course you do produce many, many wines, just so that for the audience who are less familiar.
Sure, absolutely. So that's why I was saying, Arlene, the only thing I can guarantee are white hairs, because biodiversity, you have to choose to see biodiversity, and then you have to embrace, and you cannot do average, you have to do at the best. So right now, super briefly, we do make 20 different wines. Some of them are super niche production because With Arlene, we're talking about Costa di Rose, and we're talking of a production that stays below 5,000 bottles, and the Fraiche is 6,000 bottles, and Bricco delle Viole is a bit bigger, but not all the fruit goes into Barolo Bricco delle Viole. The one that are coming from vines from 10 to 20 years old, 10 to 30, 35 years old, they will go into our classic Langhe Nebbiolo. So the Desire is basically the range is splitting in three parts. It's a side that we do call Ampeloscopio, which is a neologism, and it holds together all the crazy things we do make. And then what are the classics? So beautiful taking into the classic Dolcetto, Barbera, and Nebbiolo, pure version, pictures of the grapes. And then we have a section of what we do call the vineyard selection. And those are the vines coming that are older than 30 years old. And into this vineyard selection, we do have both the Fraiche and the Dolcetto and the Barbera and the Nebbiolo. And so basically the single vineyards Barolo. Why this distinction is because we do evaluate the complexity and the biodiversity within and the differences among the different varietals, but the age of the vines, that is another key aspect to us. And when the vines are getting older, what we notice is that they do not only deliver the sense of varietals, but they are able to carry a sense of place. This leads us to a crazy number of fermentation per year. So we are doing more than 160 fermentation per year. Sometimes are very small fermentation, and that is the only way to try to see if the diversity we notice happening within the vineyards really has an effect or a different layout, a different outcome at the end of the fermentation. Sometimes I also have to say you have to give up your hands, and you notice that nature had its own equilibrium, and the only thing you have to do is to respect that and to reblend everything together. So it's about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and in terms of production volume, how many bottles do you produce? Just so that we can understand the largeness of the size of your winery.
So we were definitely above the 500,000 bottles per year. Production can be higher if you look at the surface, but in real life, it's as I was saying, we do love to work with older vines. So of course, the yield they go very down. I pick an example. We didn't mention Dolcetto, but Dolcetto Costa Infosati. Basically, the vines are 40 years old. And with all the fruit of one vine, we are able to make no more than one bottle of wine. So this range is what really allowed us to do some crazy things like this Dolcetto, or keep farming the Fraiche and trying to make them from the older vines.
And are all of your grapes estate grown, or do you purchase also grapes from others?
So I would say that we do have everything is estate grown, because it's very key to us farming organic, to farm in a certain manner. And it's not only a question of a year, but it's a way longer process than that. In case it might happen that we do purchase something, and that is only in purpose because we wanted to be more familiar with maybe that soil type and that varietals or things like that is not the core of our production at all.
Yeah. And how many hectares?
So it's almost 90 hectares farm, and we do have a beautiful amount of woods as well. So through the years, when I was a little kid, our dad was farming organic oat. Now everything is very much focused on vines. But anytime we do have the opportunity to take care of woods, that's something we feel is very important. We're doing very interesting studios on how the different bugs and wild flowers and herbs they are changing. Also, whenever you farm nearby the woods or far away from woods and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Listen, Francesca, thank you so much. We've run out of time. Thank you very much, Arlene. Congratulations on everything that you're doing. It sounds wonderful. And hope to see you both very soon in Verona here or there. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Ciao, Laika.
Ciao. Ciao,
Ciao,
Stevie.
Laika.
Just
Sniff. Sip.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, chin chin.